In this series, we've looked closely at exactly what changes to make to your diet to help you lose weight. And as we've also discussed, this is the short-term aspect of weight loss. Changing your diet in any way will allow you to lose weight. But the dietary changes don't ultimately address the long-term problem of weight gain and loss. In this last video in the series, we'll discuss that long-term issue and what we can do to once and for all lose the weight and keep it off. Now, don't forget to check out Dr. Jason Fung's blog on the topic. And of course, watch my other series for a deeper understanding of the science behind my statements, as well as links to the relevant studies. As we've seen from the first video in this series, all diets work. Some better than others, but any dietary change will cause you to lose weight. However, we've also seen that all those diets also inevitably fail. Studies show that after 6 months to a year, there's a weight plateau followed by eventual weight regain. This gain may be due to the diet itself or a lack of compliance with the diet. The underlying issue is that insulin levels within the body are elevated and thus act on the lipostat, or body weight thermostat, in the brain to increase the body weight set point. No matter how hard we may try through exercise or diet, we simply can't affect that set point. And so we inevitably are forced to put the weight back on in an attempt for the body to normalize itself. And of course, the obvious question is, if I'm eating all the right things the right way as listed in this series, then why can't I lower the body weight set point? And that is an excellent question. The underlying problem is that insulin levels remain elevated. Two things cause insulin levels to rise. The first is the obvious one, the foods that we eat. We've taken care of that part of the equation. The second thing that causes elevated insulin is the long-term problem, insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is caused by persistent high levels of insulin. These raised levels are caused by eating too many refined foods, especially carbohydrates, and or eating too often. Most of the time, it's both of these. As insulin levels remain high, the body tries to protect itself by making the liver resistant to the insulin. The natural reaction to this is to produce more insulin, which has the unfortunate effect of increasing insulin resistance, which in turn raises insulin further in a vicious cycle. Insulin resistance is the herald of obesity, prediabetes, and diabetes type 2. So reversing it is the key to reversing those diseases and our weight in general. Insulin resistance is the main component of elevated insulin levels. This is why our dietary changes have little effect long term, even if we change to foods that don't raise insulin levels too high. Insulin levels are slightly lowered by the change in foods consumed, but the insulin resistance continues to push those levels back up. So how do we lower insulin levels and begin the process of reversing our insulin resistance and lowering the body weight set point? Well, if insulin causes weight gain, and all foods raise insulin to some degree, then what we really need is a long period of very low insulin levels. The first and easiest way to begin this process is to stop snacking. Instead of trying to advance our pharmaceutical and surgical methods of fighting obesity, what we really need to do is regress the eating habits that got us in this mess in the first place. Looking back to the 1960s and before, people did not snack. They ate 3 meals a day separated by about 6 hours. They ate from about 8 a.m. until about 6 p.m., and that was it. 3 meals max. But if you're in a situation where you're obese or having trouble losing weight, then this change probably won't be enough. You need much longer periods of extremely low insulin levels. So how do we achieve that? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Don't eat. If all foods increase insulin, then no food must reduce insulin. And the controlled abstinence of food has been around for thousands of years in all human cultures: fasting. And in this scenario, we generally refer to intermittent fasting, swapping between periods of eating and periods of fasting. The body's natural state is to balance periods of high insulin with periods of low insulin. This balance is completely destroyed when we eat constantly and eat foods that send insulin levels skyrocketing for hours at a time. Insulin instructs the body to store fat. When insulin is low, we enter a state of fat burning. This typically occurs during our overnight fast. But with continuous high levels of insulin, we're constantly in a state of fat storage, the fed state. We're never able to enter the state of fat burning, the fasted state. So this is why we must consciously change how often we eat in order to allow our stored fat a chance to break down. In the fasted state, it is stored fat that provides us with the energy and nutrients that we need for our bodies to run. Most people, and especially those who are overweight or obese, have an almost unlimited supply of energy stored within their fat cells. All they need is a way to allow the body to access it. And the only way is to stop eating. If you're constantly providing your body with food, then the body will only and exclusively use that food for energy. But if you deny your body food, then it will have no choice but to use the stored food energy within your fat cells. And for those who are diabetic, this also means allowing the body to remove the fat stored in the pancreas that is inhibiting beta cell function. For those who are obese and pre-diabetic, it means allowing the liver a chance to cleanse itself of excess sugar and fat that are causing insulin resistance. And for anyone who's overweight, it means lowering the body weight set point within the lipostat in the brain. Fasting and fasting alone can accomplish this. Now, there is one notable exception of the ketogenic diet. This type of diet restricts carbohydrates very severely. This has the effect of tricking your body into thinking that it's starving, which actually activates the same mechanisms that are involved when fasting. However, as we discussed, this type of diet is very difficult to maintain long term. It's actually much simpler to not eat for 18, 24, or even 36 hours at a stretch. Perhaps not easier, but definitely simpler. You can follow a diet that restricts some food all of the time, or you can follow a dietary change that restricts all food some of the time. If dietary change alone was the answer to all our weight loss problems, then wouldn't we have little to no obesity and diabetes? I mean, diets have been proven to fail over and over, especially those that are prescribed by doctors. The calorie counting and portion control methods of weight loss that are still so popular have a proven 99% failure rate long term. Can this possibly be due to non-compliance? Or could it be that this advice is just bad? Think about it this way. If there's a class of 100 students and one student fails, then that's most likely the student's fault. But if 99 students fail, then where lies the fault for that? The teacher. If 99% of diets fail, then we must assume that it's the advice for losing weight that is to be blamed, not the individual who is trying as hard as they might to lose that weight. So we can add in the final answer to our weight loss guidelines: when to eat. To lose weight, you must not eat all the time. This means no snacking and limiting your eating periods or eating windows to 10 hours or less. Something like eating between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. If you need or want to lose more weight or lose weight faster, then you need to extend your fasting window. And this really has almost no limit. Anywhere from 16 hours to 2 weeks or even months is possible, depending on how insulin resistant or overweight you are. There are many, many types of fasting regimens that can be tailored to basically any schedule. I have entire videos covering them that I encourage you to watch. But the point of this video and this series are this: lower insulin, reverse insulin resistance, lose weight, lower the body weight set point, keep the weight off. That's it. Follow the plan, stick to the plan, and I guarantee that you'll see results as I have. I'll be working on many more videos in regards to what foods to eat in my other series, so be sure to subscribe and enable alerts so you know when those videos post. And if you liked this video, please consider hitting the thumbs up button to help my channel gain a little more exposure. And please keep your comments and questions coming. I love engaging with those of you in our community here. We're all in this together, right? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And until then, remember, keep being a loser.